Hello, this is Faith at Faith and Books, and I'm going to attempt to do a bookshelf tour of these books. I'm just going to go for 10 minutes because I've been making long videos lately. I don't like to make them too long, but I'm going to do a tour of books that I inherited from my aunt. And so some of these were my grandfather's books, some of these are her books, and I'm just going to go through and show them to you real quickly. So here we go. So the first set that I have right here, and I'm doing it in a vertical way because, and it doesn't show up as well when you put it on YouTube, but it's just, it doesn't work the way I have it propped up here. It just doesn't work unless I put it vertically rather than horizontally. So I'm just filming on my phone. That's what I do. But anyway, my aunt lived in Washington, D.C., just down the street from a great independent bookstore called Politics and Prose. And for many years, she was part of their classics reading club. And so this was the program, these were the books, the series that they read from, the Great Books Reading and Discussion Program. Who published this? The Great Books Foundation. So there you go. She wrote something in there. Anyway, but so I've got the whole set. So there's the first series, second series, third, fourth, fifth series. There's the last one. Let's see, what did this one contain? It's got Edmund Burke, Henry Adams, King Lear from William Shakespeare, Aristotle, sections from Plato's Republic. So she did that for many years, and I inherited the whole thing. I've looked at them occasionally, you know, but not, haven't really, you know, I definitely haven't read them from cover to cover. The next thing is just a guidebook to architectural styles. She really liked architecture and the history of architecture. She was a great world traveler. These books, this is The Story of Venice, Volume 1 and 2 by John Ruskin. And these are really old copies. When was this? It's like in the late 1800s. 1894. So these are, you can tell they're not in such good, probably they were bought at a used bookstore because we weren't wealthy but readers, so my parents' generation tended to buy everything at used bookstores. So that's that. That's the Stones of Venice by Ruskin. And then there's this wonderful leather 2-volume set of The Count of Monte Cristo. Look, it's really falling apart. Ugh. This is also a very old edition. I'm not sure when, but I'm sure it was in the 1800s. So there you go. I got that from her. And then my grandfather, who only had a 6th grade education, he was a coal miner, but he sort of moved up through the labor union, became a labor union fighter, and he helped to found the CIO, the AFL-CIO. I have my great-great-grandfather on my mother's side was Samuel Gompers, who founded the AFL, and then on the other side, my father's father helped to found the CIO part of it, and then they merged, and my parents got married. So he absolutely loved John Henry Newman, and he just collected books by him. So there's my grandfather's signature there. But this is John Henry Newman by Charles Frederick Herald, published by Longmans Green and Company, 1945. The next one is Newman's Way by O'Fallon. Not sure when this was. This is written in Ireland. Yeah, I don't know about that one. The next one is The Second Spring, Cardinal Newman, edited by Francis Donnelly, S.J. He's a recognizable name. Again, there's my grandfather's signature. And if you haven't followed my videos before, John Henry Newman was just canonized as a saint in the Catholic Church last October. But my grandfather was into them way before then. So there, John Henry Newman by Sister Mary Aloysie Kiner, head of the Department of English of Notre Dame College in Cleveland, Ohio. This was 1933. It was published in 1933. This is falling apart. This is discussions and arguments, Newman, on various subjects. So this is published 1907. Here you go. So Newman was a great, he's going to be one of the doctors of the church. He was a great theologian and philosopher. I wish I knew who these people were. There's my grandfather's signature, but then it says it's inscribed with every good wish for a speedy recovery, Regula and Jean, December 1958. And this was a book called, let me find it. There he is again, Newman, His Life and Spirituality by Louis Boyer, who's a well-known writer. So that's that. Let's see. The next one is a preface to Newman's Theology by Reverend Edmund Darville Bernard, Catholic University of America. This is 1945. That's another one. So he had a tendency, and these aren't even all his Newman books. He collected many, many books on John Henry Cardinal Newman. And then he also loved Jacques Maritain, who was a French philosopher, on the Philosophy of History by Jacques Maritain. He was a great Thomist. He sort of revived St. Thomas Aquinas, who had kind of fallen out of favor. This is called The Present Position of Catholics in England. John Henry Newman, 1851. So this is a collection of his lectures. He was a bishop in the Anglican Church before he converted to Catholicism. There's Freedom in the Modern World. This is going to be Jacques Maritain. There we go. That's 1936. So my grandfather was really into economics and the labor movement. This is Shakespeare by Mark Van Doren, the guy of the quiz show fraud fame. And he worked with Mortimer Adler. This is something written by Hilaire Belloc, who's a well-known Catholic writer. Here's another one, Jacques Maritain, Existence and the Existent. That's that. How far are we in? 8 minutes, okay. I remember this book when I was a little girl, going over to my grandmother's and looking through this book, Our Common Birds and How to Know Them. This is just a bird, ID book from, let's see, when was this? It was discarded from the library, 1909, with 64 plates, it says. I remember loving this book when I was a little girl. This is neat. This is really old. You can see how damaged it is. But it is, and it's falling apart. But this must have come, this is Charles Brophy, I believe. That was my grandfather's brother. And it's got in Allegheny. They lived up they lived in that part of Pennsylvania around Pittsburgh. But it is the New Testament in, can you see that? In Greek and English. That's pretty cool. That's old. I don't know when this came out. Look at that handwriting though. It's like calligraphy. And then, let's see, at 931. With these books down here, when she was a girl, my Aunt Jackie she was really into broadcast journalism because the radio was a big thing at the time. And she had a massive crush that she never got over on Eric Sevareid. So she collected books on him. She really, anything to do with Eric Sevareid, she loved. So that was a biography of him. This is a book he wrote, and this is old. Eric Sevareid, Not So Wild a Dream. So he was famous during World War II because he reported from London. Here's another book by him, In One Ear, by Eric Sevareid. Let's see, is there anything else? And then what was this book? Oh, this looks really interesting. Outlines of Jewish History from Abraham to Our Lord. Copyright 1910 by the Benziger brothers. So that's a Catholic publication. This would be really, really interesting to go through and look at. I wonder about that. Are we at 10? Oh, we're at 10:40. Real quick, here's just a book about the Murrow boys, again, about broadcast journalism. She was really into that. American Catholics and Social Reform, the New Deal years, because, my grandfather, was very pro-labor unions. They really liked FDR. Here is Labor Studies Journal, and somebody wrote an article about my grandfather, John Brophy's Miners Programs, Workers' Education in the UMWA District 2, United Mine Workers of America, District 2 during the 1920s. So she saved that. She was in labor studies herself. That's what she did. She worked at Michigan State and then Cornell University, and then she wound up getting a job at the George Meany Center for Labor Studies in Maryland. This one is A Short History of the British Working Class Movement, 1787 to 1947. So there, that's my aunt's signature, Jacqueline Brophy. There's more to go through, so I think I'll just stop because it's already 11:56. So I don't know how this came out or if this is worthwhile at all, but hopefully you find it interesting. Talk to you later. Bye.